Oh, God. What the fuck? Todd, I want to go on something more thrilling than Ferris Wheel 1. Here we go, Todd! Let's have some fun, baby! Oh, shit! As a kid, I hated to read. And so when the Scholastic Book Fair came to my elementary school each year, I didn't get any books. I got video games. My name is Schlatt, and this was the first game I got at one of those things. SimCity 3000. It was a city builder, came out in 1999, and it's pretty much what you'd expect from a game made back then. The graphics and interface were nothing to write home about, and the biggest change since the last SimCity was literally garbage management, but still, I had a hell of a time with it. It was my introduction to what would soon become my favorite video game genre. Next year, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 showed up at the fair. Now instead of cities, I was making theme parks, and instead of just laying out the framework for growth, I was growing the damn thing myself. Similar to SimCity 3000, Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 hadn't changed much from its predecessor, but that's for a good reason. Both Electronic Arts and Chris Sawyer had a winning formula with these games, but God, I like this formula a hell of a lot better. I think there's a few major reasons why I liked it more than SimCity. Like I said, I was a very hands-on kid, and being able to put together your own rides, roller coasters, and just build your park out to your own desire was amazing. And in SimCity, all you did was just zone areas where random houses would eventually pop up. Plus, being in control of every aspect of your park, and then actually seeing the guests walk around and enjoy what you made for them felt way more personal and fulfilling. On top of all that...
Oh my gosh. Mama.
Roller coasters are just fucking awesome, dude. It took about a year before I realized Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 had a successor. And to my surprise, it was a huge departure from what I had come to expect from Tycoon games. It dropped the 2D isometric view for an entirely explorable 3D world. There was a day and night cycle, the guests came in groups and families, and there was a coaster cam where you could build a roller coaster and then actually ride it in first person with the guests as it flies off the track and kills 50 people. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 was everything I really wanted in a tycoon. I was at the age where I wasn't just aimlessly placing things down anymore. I had a vision for my parks, and as that vision materialized, the game felt more and more alive. In fact, everyone kind of loved this game. People loved to leap into 3D, being able to experience your park from any angle. And for the first time, there was a sandbox mode where you didn't have to worry about finances and you could just splurge on all the thrill rides and decorations you wanted. The coaster cam was damn cool too, and it enabled a whole new way for everyone to show off their creations. I remember hours on YouTube just watching other people's roller coasters. Atari was on a roll with this franchise, and I couldn't wait for what would come next.
Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Let's go. Let's go. This game is a piece of shit. Is this... I'm in awe, actually. I'm in awe that I paid.
And now we're here. Right? The holy trinity of Roller Coaster Tycoon. The one that started it all, the one that built on a winning formula, and the groundbreaker. And personally, I don't think another Tycoon game comes close to touching Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 these days. Yeah, I know, 15 years old, same thing as the last one, worse reviews than the sequel, but this game is a gem, and I'm going to try to explain why. It is damn easy to get into this game. If you want to make money, all you gotta do is slap down a motion simulator by the entrance, and 5 minutes later the place will be packed. Now I like this because not only can the game be fun for kids and new players, but also because winning the game is a whole nother challenge. Besides just making money, each scenario you play has a different objective you have to meet to actually win. Sometimes it's having a certain amount of guests in your park, sometimes it's maintaining a good park rating, and sometimes it's just having fun. But with each new scenario, there's always something new you can strive for. And if it's not the scenarios already in-game, you can make your own goals. You can make a micro park and see how much stuff you can cram into a small area. You can focus on making the place as beautiful as possible. You can hone in your roller coaster designing skills and try and hit that perfect ratio of excitement to intensity. Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is an infinitely tall skyscraper whose main floor is open to everyone. The skill ceiling to this game is boundless, and that's why I've been playing it for a decade. Let's take a look at Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Even though it was praised for its transition from 2D to 3D, today it just looks tacky. The graphics barely changed between the first two games because I think Chris Sawyer knew that they worked. He focused on the actual gameplay, the mechanics of the game, and that's why instead of some flashy visual upgrades, we got a more robust building system. We got a custom scenario editor. We got a game whose main goal was to put us in control of the park, even more than before. And the isometric view of Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 just adds to that. It's rigid, so it's really easy to learn, but it also lends itself very well to complexity. There's a ton of props and building materials at your disposal, and if you have the time, you can make some real aesthetically pleasing shit. The first two reasons are why such an amazing community still exists for Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, but in a way, the community itself has become a defining aspect of this game as well. The subreddit for the franchise has tens of thousands of subscribers and is focused almost exclusively on the second game. They've got build competitions, people share their parks and the coasters they've made, but by far the best thing we've seen out of the community has been OpenRCT 2. It's an open source continuation of the game that primarily tweaks certain bugs and mechanics, but there's some cooler aspects to it as well. You can play multiplayer with friends, you can play the game in modern resolutions, you can enable this sweet atmospheric lighting that you've been seeing in some of these clips, and you can unlock every ride's operating limits and send a 200 train coaster straight into fucking space if you wanted to. OpenRCT 2 is really special, and it's the first thing I tell anyone about who's looking to get into this game. I think we all saw this one coming. Now, I'm not saying I don't get nostalgia from other Tycoon games I used to play. Whenever I launch SimCity 3000 and hear that menu music, it takes me back to a time when the most stressful thing I had to worry about was what to name the town I was about to make. Hell, I remember scrolling out all the way in my ArtCT 3 worlds just to hear that theme song start playing again. But out of all these old school games I used to play, nothing quite brings me back like Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. There's a quaint familiarity to it, from the moment you launch the game and hear that chain lift. And then once you get into the game, when all that you have are your thoughts in a single path, it's a fresh experience each time, but it's not a new one. Because as my park progresses, the tiny pieces of this game that I've come to appreciate the most always come back. The hum of the crowd that gets louder as more guests arrive, and the occasional cry of joy after a fun ride. The screams of guests on roller coasters that abruptly cut out if the drop is shorter than the soundbite. And, of course, making a roller coaster that actually doesn't suck. Or crash. It's the simple things that I remember fondly. But now that I'm old enough to appreciate the more complicated facets of the game, it feels just as new as it did the day I picked it up from the book fair. I just feel at home when I'm playing, and that feeling I don't think I can say any other game gives me. Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is a lesson to the entire genre. Tycoon games don't have to be flashy and have amazing graphics. They don't have to wow you with trailblazing industry-changing features. In fact, they don't have to change much at all. Sometimes they just have to know what makes them good in the first place. All right, cut the pussy shit. Let's go. Rock Style 3. Rock Style 3, baby. Yeah. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/JSchlatt. I'm going to be streaming. I'm live right now playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. I know you want to watch it. Dun-dun-dun-dun.